Yeah, wouldn't it just be
Paramount?
mount?
Are there a bunch of mounts? Wait, is the mount a horse? I am drawing a cow. Ooh.
You've been watching Yellowstone. Paramount means more important than anything else. Supreme.
Well, then why do they show a picture of a mountain then?
Because that mountain is more important than anything else. It is supreme.
What is it, made of diamonds? is it
It's higher. It's higher than everything else. It's above us all.
Yeah.
It's paramount.
First
but
in
why
the chat,
para?
Dylan Theus. Well done, sir. Hey, man, I'll be curious. Dylan, in the live feed, how good is my connection? Because the Restream thingadoodle, what's the service that we use?
StreamYard.
StreamYard is hitting me with the "you got a bad connection" again, and I don't know why. It's unearned.
I don't think it likes you.
I guess.
I think it's just talking trash.
I mean, what I love. Meanwhile, of course, here just
because you look great
Hello,
to me.
Zoe brings bacon.
Oh, Flying Car 100. How you doing?
I'm gonna just real quick.
Dylan says it's coming through clear so far.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, running a speed
StreamYard's
test
just lying.
during the stream, it's got 700 megabits down, nearly 800, and then
Mine says, "Warning, Tom. It looks like you've put on weight. You shouldn't have a snack."
Do you worry about putting on weight? That doesn't seem like a very Tom Merritt.
No. I was trying to
problem.
come up with StreamYard. It's just insulting us both in different ways.
Yeah, it's saying 37 megabits up. I don't know what. Maybe it's the browser. Could it maybe not
it could
like?
be. It could be the browser cache is too small.
Oh,
That could be
I
real.
never considered that I had a small browser cache.
See, it's just insulting.
I thought it's all Chromium under the hood.
It's not the size of the cache. It's what you put in it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well,
It's the data. It's the quality of the data.
Hey, so I heard something that I repeated.
It's the quality of the
then
throughput.
somebody liked, and therefore I want to take credit for it, but I didn't say it. But that whole nature versus nurture debate, I heard rephrased as it's the data and the algorithm. Nature is the algorithm. Oh, sorry. Nurture is the algorithm. Nature is the data. Had you heard that before?
No, that's a good one though. I can kind of
Isn't that
see
great?
that. Yeah.
Like once you see it, it's like,
you just have a bunch of data, but then the algorithm can do things with the data.
yeah. And it's like you're built with the equipment to process the data.
Right. And nurture
so-
could massage it. We don't think about it that way. Sometimes people think it's either nature or nurture, but it's like, no, nurture is actually just modifying the nature.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. I like that quite a bit.
Cracked
I like
another
it
one.
when we get, I like it when we move on to new metaphors.
Yeah. Our brains are like LLMs that way.
I think of my neurons as just clusters of relationship nodes, like in an LLM.
Yeah. It's just like a calculator.
It's almost as if large language models were built on a tensor processing model based on our neuronal structure.
I mean, that is, of course, we just keep trying to create the thing that is like a human.
Yeah.
It's like this sex doll is like a human. Humans are like sex dolls. No, that's not how it works.
No, it started the other way around. Yeah.
All
right. Well, speaking of sex dolls, should we do the show?
You better believe it.
Just goes to show that segue never doesn't work. Welcome to Cord Killers. We advocated killing the cord, and then they all died. And now we're trying to figure out how to watch what we want, when we want, wherever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's the good stuff, Brian?
Tom, that's a little segment I like to call offering Brian an exit that he does not intend to drive down. Instead, I'll be barreling on forward and remembering fondly Robert Redford, who passed away today at the age of 88, I believe.
How old was Robert Redford? I think you're right. It's either 88 or 89. 89.
89. Okay. Did you learn in high school the literary present tense that you're supposed to always refer to characters in the present tense, whether the character dies in the novel or not?
That rings a bell. I'd
Yeah.
forgotten all about it, but now that you say that, I'm like, oh, right. We talk about Ebenezer. Well, okay. He doesn't die.
Well, when we are
Spoiler.
giving literary criticism, we give it all present tense. But what's funny is I've seen in my lifetime drift in that when it comes to when people die. We say he was 89, but of course he still is 89.
He still is 89. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Well, and then you get into the thing of like, next year, will he be 90? Or
Yeah,
because
that's
he
true.
died, he's
we
just
don't
89.
say Benjamin Franklin is 317 years old.
Right. One of these two, Paramount or Warner Brothers, is about to die, and we're going to tell you which one in the supply run.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
All the scuttlebutt around the town of Los Angeles is about Paramount Skydance, newly formed, newly approved, merged Skydance and Paramount, exploring a bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery before Warner Brothers Discovery can split itself into two. Warner Brothers Discovery, as we've told you before on Cord Killers, is in the process of separating itself into Warner Brothers, which would be the studio and HBO, and then another company, we actually don't know what they would be named, but Warner Brothers Studio and HBO on one, and then the Discovery networks, the cable networks on the other. This is something that Comcast is in the process of as well. It is expected to finish this process in April next year. However, Paramount is reportedly bidding on the combined entity before that can happen. Wall Street Journal said the bid would be mostly cash. It would be backed by the Ellison family, which is important because David Ellison, the son of Oracle's Larry Ellison, is in charge of Paramount Skydance. But Larry briefly was the richest man on the planet last week, and he's still right up there at the top, right behind Elon Musk. So he occasionally invests in the things that his son are involved in, and apparently he would invest in this. When I first saw this news, Brian, it looked to me like Sprint trying to buy T-Mobile before AT&T could. When what actually happened is AT&T tried to buy T-Mobile. The U.S. said no, that would be a monopoly, and so T-Mobile bought Sprint instead.
Oof. Well, before we unpack the parallel, help me understand what the attraction is. I understand that when you got a crap ton of money, you want to park it somewhere and you know a fixer-upper of a company when you see it, but why move into media to begin with? In other words, let me put it this way. Up until this news item, I just regarded this as single-celled amoeba collects other single-celled amoeba.
To become bigger.
Exactly. But now multiple points form a line, and I'm like, to what extent is somebody aiming to eventually become a media mega conglomerate, or what is known about the direction, the motivations?
Yeah, so it is the end of one empire and the beginning of another. Sumner Redstone owned Viacom, which owned Paramount and CBS for most of the 70s and 80s. It then split them into two, but Sumner Redstone still owned both of them, and then merged them back together. And then Sumner Redstone's daughter presided over this recent sale. That was the end of the National Amusements domination of the Viacom empire. And we now have Paramount and CBS still together, but merged with Skydance under a new dynasty, the Ellisons. David Ellison apparently wants to be in media, thinks he can make money at it, but by all accounts, just enjoys it, enjoys being around it, enjoys being involved with it, believes in it. So this is less about his dad, who's more like, yeah, okay, if you can prove on paper you can make some money, I'll help you out. And more about David Ellison saying, I want to be the new media mogul. I don't know if he wants to be the new Sumner Redstone per se, but he is building an empire.
This is one of those brief moments when I remember that entertainment is a novel business to some people. You just brought it all home. If you have money, then oftentimes, as you've heard me say before, Tom, there's really only three currencies. There's story, attention, and sales. And if you have a lot of one currency, you tend to want the other. So if you have a lot of money and you're not really worried about making a dent in the universe, you don't want to be Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, then oftentimes people drift to where the fame, respect, the glamour, the glitz is. They can't resist that siren call of Hollywood. So that, until I hear otherwise, is going to be my operating thesis. But to your question about whether this is like T-Mobile and AT&T, what the very question itself implies a surprise. What is the surprise in the T-Mobile and AT&T acquisition that happened before?
I'll speak for myself. This is a very DTNS oriented parallel, and I know it won't necessarily work for everybody.
I speak a little bit of Daily Tech News Show.
AT&T and Verizon in the United States are the two big mobile carriers, right? And not even just mobile, fixed lines as well. They were competing with Sprint and T-Mobile. T-Mobile was doing okay. Sprint was doing a little less okay. They were fairly equivalent, and AT&T wanted to buy up T-Mobile. That would have made room for Sprint to grow potentially, but it would have brought down the number of carriers to 3. The U.S. Department of Justice came in and said, that's a monopoly. We're not going to allow it. So it didn't happen. So what T-Mobile did was turned around and immediately bought Sprint and said, but if we consolidate the two bottom ones, you can't say that's too many. That's too big, right? Because both of us together are still not as big as either AT&T or Verizon. So when I look at this, I look at Paramount as being not quite as big as Warner Brothers, especially in the streaming world. It doesn't even have as many franchises as Warner Brothers does when you consider, even though Paramount has a long storied history and has got some great franchises like Star Trek, Warner Brothers has more in its library. And so to me, it looks like the littler guy eyeing the slightly bigger guy and saying, I bet we can get that approved because we're neither one of us too big. We're not Comcast. We're not Netflix. We're not Amazon. And then that'll make us big enough to compete, which, going back to the carriers, T-Mobile became big enough to compete, and it's done fairly well since then.
Now, to be clear, in the telecom example, you're actually dealing with a zero-sum game of if you are subscribed to one carrier, you are not subscribed to another carrier.
Right.
So there is something that you're fighting over. So you do have issues of antitrust. Is there any of that on this? Because there would be if there was broadcast licenses involved, because then you would have the FCC would have to clear if, for example, in one market you had all of the available bandwidth and nobody else could break in, then you have antitrust. But when it comes to intellectual property, in an age of, like, let's say, number of characters you have or number of stories that you own, there's no antitrust aspect, is there?
There could be, but it's certainly not as clear. Put it this way, this merger, should it ever happen, would get Department of Justice and Federal Trade Commission scrutiny. It would probably pass, but it is bringing two heritage movie studios together. It's combining a lot of content together. What this company would point out is, but we're still not as big as Comcast. We're still not as big as Netflix. We're still not as big as Amazon. And so, we're not reducing overall competition. However, if Paramount were to try to buy, or let's put it the other way because it's more likely, if Disney were to try to buy Paramount, suddenly two major broadcasters, ABC and CBS. Remember, there's only 4 major broadcasters, 5 if you squint and count Univision or maybe CW, but really there's only 4 major broadcasters in the US. If you were to combine 2 of those, suddenly the FCC gets involved because of over-the-air stuff, and that becomes a much bigger problem. So the fact that Warner Brothers has no broadcast licenses to speak of means that this is going to be an easier antitrust decision, I think.
And I guess if there was an antitrust story, so the closest parallel I could think of is when it comes to owning movie theaters and studios back in the day.
Right.
And in that case, there is, again, we're back to, at some point, there is a zero-sum choke point. There are only so many theaters in every town, and if you own one, then that means somebody else doesn't own that one, preferential treatment and so on. The closest to antitrust I can flex my brain would be maybe when it comes to talent acquisition. If you're a big enough company, you could essentially say, if you are a Paramount talent, you stay in Paramount only. And then
but
you could be in
now you're
trouble.
really talking like mid early 20th century stuff
I'm trying,
has a bit of issue. Yeah. So that one's not likely. More likely would be you control too many franchises now. And so you can affect the price of syndication of things by withholding, like, well, you won't get access to any Harry Potter stuff. I don't think that's likely, though. I don't think they own that many franchises that would be an issue. Again, because there are so many competitors in the game, and all the competitors are bigger.
Well, what's interesting is we can see those barriers, and we can see that scarcity when it comes to, for example, sports and region locks and so on. We recently have even seen it. I think it was Newsmax was suing antitrust against Fox because they were acting as though, well, obviously you have to have Fox News if you're covering the right. And now they're unfairly making people get Fox Business instead of Newsmax. So within that domain, I could almost see, but it is curious.
But that is a declining domain, so it's not likely to trip the triggers of the FTC or the Department of Justice, either one. I don't think antitrust will be the issue here. It will be whether David Zaslav, the current CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, can be convinced that this is his legacy, is to give up and give in to David Ellison. This is going to come down to personality. The stockholders. And the podcast The Town was debating what's the stock price, at which the stockholders force Zaslav to swallow his pride and say, like, look, we're getting $30 a share. You can't tell us that we shouldn't accept that. Because Zaslav has this idea that he can do what Comcast is doing. He's going to carve off the unprofitable cable companies into a separate Discovery thing. He's going to stay in charge of Warner Brothers, and then he'll have a more valuable institution because he'll be developing the franchises there and focusing on HBO in order to sell it to a bigger one down the street versus selling it to David Ellison's tiny little Paramount.
So what are some of the moves that become possible if this acquisition goes through?
So let's assume for the moment anyway that maybe Zaslav doesn't win. Maybe the stockholders, maybe David Ellison just comes in with a big old fat cash offer they can't refuse, and this happens. Comcast is probably the biggest loser here because, as we've been saying for years, as soon as the prohibition on AT&T's sale of Warner Brothers Discovery expired, which happened this year, as soon as Comcast and Disney resolved their ownership of Hulu, which happened earlier this year, the consolidation wars will begin. And the first shot was Skydance and Paramount. What's going on is that everybody knows Netflix has plenty of subscribers. Amazon just kind of has a different calculus, but plenty of subscribers. Disney has plenty of subscribers. Apple doesn't care if they have subscribers. So it's up to Peacock, Paramount, and HBO Max to figure out how can we scale? How can we get in the game and compete with Disney? If Paramount and Warner Brothers team up, suddenly Paramount Plus and HBO Max are going to combine and they're going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be able to hang with Disney Plus and Netflix. And that's going to leave Peacock out in the cold. Peacock has been growing. It's got some Olympics and sports and things, but it really needs catalog if it's going to compete with these others. Netflix needs catalog too. Netflix probably doesn't want to buy all the other stuff they would have to buy to do this, right? They don't want to operate a movie studio necessarily. They certainly don't want to deal with cable companies and all of that sort of thing. So it's going to be Comcast that's going to be crying the most when they look at the fact that they needed HBO to boost Peacock, and they didn't get it.
So how big?
If that happened. If that were
okay,
to
so right now the secret juggernaut that nobody wants to admit is the dominant force is YouTube. But let's set that aside and only talk about the premium subscriber based streaming services.
Yeah, and
Netflix-
no, to that point, I don't think anyone's pretending like that doesn't exist, but they see it legitimately as a different business.
Correct.
Like
correct.
YouTube is a place where they'll all compete to get people to come pay for their streaming services.
Right. But I guess in terms of positioning space, Netflix number one, and then let's say, we've got Disney Plus and Hulu all combined together. Let's put them in one bucket. We've got is Amazon Prime still a player?
Prime Video,
So
Roku,
HBO Max, does
Max.
it leapfrog over any of these or?
Let's go to Nielsen's The Gauge and kind of see, like, if we changed it today, how would this all break out? Let me see if I can pull this up really fast.
We would be combining all of Warner Brothers Discovery.
So Peacock has 1.4% in the most recent version of the Gauge.
Bitty.
Warner Brothers has 1.4%, and Paramount has 2%. If you combine Paramount with either of those, you get 3.4%, which puts it right next to Prime Video, which is 3.9%, and within shooting distance of Disney, which is 4.6.
That is interesting. Well, shoot, how fascinating.
And just for the scale, Netflix is 8.7% and YouTube is 13.1%.
Yeah.
Roku and Tubi are ahead of Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Peacock.
I mean, I don't even know how to count Roku though. Like in paid subscriptions? No.
In viewing
views.
the Roku
Humans.
channel.
Yeah.
Not viewing things on the Roku operating system, viewing the Roku channel.
That is truly remarkable to me. That is bonkers.
Yeah, people watch the Roku channel more than they watch Paramount Plus or HBO Max or Peacock.
Humbly beg anybody hearing my voice, if you, outside of the Weird Al biopic, if you watch Roku, please sell me on why. Hit me up at cordkillers@gmail.com. I would hear of this.
Yeah, so if Paramount Skydance were to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, then presumably, even if they left them as separate services, they'd be able to count the 2% and the 1.4% together, and they are now in the conversation. And Peacock is down there at the bottom. In other words, what Comcast would like to do is combine and get 2.8%, which puts it at parity with the Roku channel, frankly, which isn't as great, but it's still like with NBC's advertising muscle, with sports and Olympics and all of that, something that they could build on. If they are left behind at the bottom of this scale, Comcast has got a problem on its hands. It's not an insolvable one, but the way to solve it would be to acquire something, and there wouldn't be anything left to acquire.
Question from the chat. Actually, I don't know if it's
unless they were to
accurate or
acquire Tubi or Roku, which would start to become an interesting conversation. Yes, question for the chat.
No. I was going to ask the question from the chat. I just Googled it and I didn't get anything. From user JMKQFNVY187 or L87. Tencent has how much of Skydance though? I don't know. According to the Google, none. But I don't know if there's something that I don't.
Infinitesimal amount that may have disappeared in the merger of Skydance and Paramount. This is a question, and it's fine for you to ask it. Everyone thinks Tencent, because it's Chinese and because it has lots of investments, is somehow special and weird and more influential than it is. If you go look at the ownership of any public company, you'll find lots of Tencents. They're not always Chinese. Sometimes they're American. Sometimes they're European. There's lots of companies that buy little pieces. Look at what Google owns. Google owns, or Alphabet, little pieces of lots of stuff. So Tencent, I don't know what it is. Everybody's like, yeah, but Tencent owns 1% of them.
Oh, well, to be honest, I could speculate
it's just a
on that.
company diversifying its investments. It doesn't really mean much.
I think there's a visibility bias with Tencent.
Yeah.
Like when you're watching a movie, did Tencent have something to do with The Meg or certainly Moonfall?
Yeah.
When a Tencent movie when you see it, and I think that creates that availability heuristic in humans' minds.
And it's in video games. It owns a little bit of Riot and again, a little bit of, and so suddenly people are like, oh, Tencent's taking over everything. And it could go that way, but no different than Amazon owning a little bit of everything. Yeah. Alphabet owning a little bit. I don't look at Tencent as particularly unusual in having a lot of investments. That's something that a lot of companies do.
Actually think that this is a ringing endorsement of never consume any media that is not 100% completely independent and listener supported. That's why I don't listen to NPR. Too much government money. I don't watch any TV or any movies. You know what? All I do is I watch things that I can support directly at Patreon. And in fact, this very program is the only show I watch. I only watch Cord Killers, and I go to patreon.com/cordkillers, where I'm able to keep us loud, live, and independent for just $1 an episode. That's all I ask of myself. And then I pay myself the $1. And you know what I get, Tom? I get early access to the full experience. That's where we watch the first episode, the ultimate highest rated episode, the lowest episode, and the last episode of a series. It also gives me exclusive access to a segment you and I do together called After Talk. Boy, this metaphor really it's not even a metaphor.
No.
It's a recursive set. It's a picture of me holding a picture of me holding a picture, and all of it is brought to you by you. Well, that's another picture holding a picture.
Yeah.
You brought this. You did this to yourself by going to patreon.com/cordkillers and keeping us loud, live, and independent. And I can't thank you enough.
I feel really bad now, Brian.
Why's that?
I'm partially owned by Tencent.
Oh, no.
No, wait, if I have paid for a Tencent property,
Yep.
that means that I own them, not that they own me, right?
Well, and I assume you spell own PWN, right?
Yes, exactly. Like my pennant up there on the wall. I pwned them. So I pwned net. Okay, I feel fine now. You're safe to invest at patreon.com/cordkillers.
Awesome.
Let's move on to the search party. James Gunn told Howard Stern that the next Superman movie is going to be called Man of Tomorrow, and that it is a story about Lex Luthor and Superman having to work together to a certain degree against a much bigger threat. Gunn said, it's more complicated than that. It's as much a Lex movie as it is a Superman movie, and it's going to start production this coming April, and is still on course to hit theaters July 9th, 2027.
I really love the mechanical game of, like, for that to work, what needs to be true. And one thing that needs to be true is that we can take seriously the idea of Lex Luthor and Superman being roughly evenly matched, which makes me want to review the movie that just came out through that lens. And I'm like, yeah, they did fine. You know, money plus technology plus a big team equals roughly a credible counterpoint to Superman. And I like the idea of them, for lack of a better word, teaming up.
Yeah. I note that James Gunn also posted that Superman is coming to HBO Max September 19th. So if you do want to review it, you don't even have to rent it. You can get it with your HBO Max subscription, should you have one. But I love that they built a relationship between Lex and Superman. They sort of assumed one and then showed it to us. And so that feels like Gunn knew what he was doing, which I think he does, and was laying the groundwork for this story that he's about to tell.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about how the nature of comics, one of the things that we were excited about Gunn's taking on the DCU was the fact that we weren't doing yet another origin story. We weren't going chronologically, because the actual experience for anybody who grows up and reads comics, nobody starts with Action Comics #1. Somebody hands you a Superman story and
in fact, you really couldn't. Like, these days you can go and buy a digital copy of Action Comics 1 and decide to start. Nobody does that still, but you could. When we were young, you absolutely couldn't do that. You went to the store and whatever Superman they had on the rack, that's what you bought.
Yeah, and I am a big fan of that type of storytelling. I like stories that kind of exist out of a chronological order. For example, it's a weird way to think of it, but the Beatles is a story. And if you knew somebody who had never heard of the Beatles, you would not begin with their back catalog, starting with the bootlegs of them in Hamburg, Germany, and go chronologically from there.
Right.
No, you would wait for a dreamy Sunday afternoon.
You would
and
start
hit 'em
with the Quarrymen and
yeah, that's right. You would go back even before then. Yeah, first you'd play some Chuck Berry and say this will be important later.
Exactly. Some Little Richard, get the roots down. But actually, I think we do have to go back to Louis Armstrong at that point.
My point being, I like self-similar patterns that are sort of like, by the way, audio listeners, I'm drawing a square, and around every corner of the square, I'm drawing another square ad infinitum. And I love the idea that folks can begin with a single vector. Let's say it's Penny Lane, and then maybe there's another vector on the other side of the fractal that is, she loves you, and on and on and on. And eventually you're so deep, you're unironically reading the book that just came out, the John and Paula love story. That kind of unpredictable storytelling is fascinating to me, and I love it in comic books, and I love that James Gunn intuitively understands it and is bringing that to the movies.
Yeah. If you would like to close out a chapter of viewing a story, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, is in theaters now. In case you missed it, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, and Christopher Guest all reprising their roles.
Tom, I want everybody who's listening on audio to know that I'm using the Telestrator to draw a rectangle, and I'm labeling it trailer. On the left, I'm putting Spinal Tap 1. On the right, I'm putting Spinal Tap 2, and I'm going to put one little slice in the middle, and I'm going to write the words Paul McCartney. That was the best part of the trailer.
Yeah. I watched the trailer and enjoyed it. I'll maybe watch this when it comes to streaming, but it didn't make me want to go to the theater to see it, which is sad, actually. I wish I did. But
yeah, it didn't really look like, I mean, it looked like a family reunion.
Yeah,
and
right.
Family
It looks
reunions
fun,
have
but
their moments, but
yeah.
in general are not always must-watch events.
You know what is also not a must-watch event, but is available for you to watch whenever you want in the comfort of your own home, is Letterman TV, a 24/7 TV fast channel, free ad-supported channel, available on Samsung TV Plus. Now, it has had most of David Letterman's CBS episodes, The Late Show with David Letterman, but he just got the rights to add more than 1,800 episodes of NBC's Late Night with David Letterman, his original run. Letterman TV is also going to have exclusive, never-before-seen content, like unreleased intros from Dave with commentary, behind-the-scenes anecdotes, interviews, etc. So yeah, Dave owns this channel, so he probably had it as part of his contract that he could do something like this with CBS, but he didn't with NBC because he was too young and unknown when he started there. But he has been able to leverage it now, so good for him.
So this is fascinating. This is what happens when you have enough power and authority to get a very extensive brand all in one bucket, which on the one hand, that's great for David Letterman. It probably would have been a bit more newsworthy a decade, 2 decades ago. But when I think of it now that culture has moved on so much and the white hot heat of Letterman vibes is now past, I thought, who is this for? And the answer was somebody who's trolling for treasure, because somewhere back in there, we know, like, for example, Andy Kaufman's awkward appearance on there,
Yeah.
or, what's his name? Marty McFly, or not George McFly, the name
Donald Trump.
No. He had another awkward interview. The point is, when I think of who's watching this channel, the image that pops directly to my mind are those end of the day metal detector carrying beachcombers who are just, they need something to do. They're just trolling, hoping to find a little bit of gold that maybe they can snip out and share with a friend or something.
Yeah, no, and adding some unreleased stuff appeals to somebody like me who's like, oh, maybe that's fun, but I've seen all those. It's been a long time though. And then suddenly it's like, oh, you've never seen this. You've never seen this commentary. Yeah, it's smart. Tell me what, if any, importance this has, Brian. Ricky Gervais is producing and voicing an animated series about feral cats called Alley Cats, set to debut on Netflix in 2026.
I think that the most significant thing is that Carl Blakemore correctly reminded me his name was Crispin Glover, derp. But the important thing is that I cannot think of literally anything important about this except for I don't think that there is such a demand for cat-related fare that this is a response to it, which suggests to me that much like Gervais's other projects, this probably comes deeply from within some other corner of his psyche that I'm very excited about.
The 6-part show is described as a slacker sitcom. So there you go. Meant to be enjoyed stoned, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a story that would never have been in Cord Killers had we not begun watching Yellowstone on the full experience, but it now makes sense to both of us. Jay Courtney has been added to the Yellowstone spinoff that is focused on Beth and Rip. It's currently titled The Dutton Ranch, and the series will see Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser reprise their roles from the main show, as well as Finn Little in the role of Carter. As previously announced, Annette Bening and Ed Harris will also star in The Dutton Ranch.
Tom, in theory, this should make a lot more sense now that we've watched the pilot episode, but I regret to inform you that this still makes no sense to me. How many of these
Well, you know what
names
the
do you
Dutton Ranch is.
Yes, I do know
and
that.
you know who Beth and Rip are?
I see you meet a lot of characters in episode 1, and so I assume that they were in
Beth
there.
is the hard-talking daughter,
Yep, okay, got it.
and Rip is the guy she has sex with.
Yeah, okay, got it. Although there's having sex and then there's whatever that was, but we'll
Well,
talk
or
about that.
you noticed I paused.
I felt the awkward.
Yeah. I almost said she ripped him.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. And then Annette Bening and Ed Harris are the new stars. Like when they did an 1800s version, like prequel, and that had Harrison Ford in
that
it.
Is,
Yeah.
I do remember we covered the announcement of that. And in fact, for anybody who's
1883
wondering
or
why
something.
we're so ignorant of this, we covered the news of all these spinoffs when they happened, but now we're actually dipping a toe into Yellowstone, and we're going to give our opinions about it in the full experience.
Yeah. And this would never have made it, but I was like, wait, I know who Beth and Rip are because I watched the pilot episode now. All right, let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Buried treasure is when we talk about something we've been watching. Maybe it's going to add something to your to-watch list. Maybe it's going to reveal new functionality in streaming that you might not have been aware of. We got both of those today. Brian, what have you been watching?
I continue to march forward about 2 to 3 episodes per day through Death Note with my 17-year-old daughter. It's great. When that show is singing its best, it's very quickly it does like 3 to 7 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes of hand waving, trying to make you forget about all the other questions, and it sets up just one chess match between two characters, and it keeps changing the domain of what the chess match is. But then it's one character like, if I do this, then that means that, and that means this, that. It's really fun and a little bit silly, really great. I'm having a good time, but not as much fun as I'm having watching episode 3. I'm up to episode 3 of Alien Earth. Tom, I'm all in on this. I don't know if I told you, I full on teared up at episode 2. I teared up at an Alien movie. This one, Noah Hawley is really a gifted storyteller. And normally when you get a action movie franchise that moves onto the small screen, there's a comic bookiness where it's like action set pieces need to happen off camera or maybe with just kind of one striking image. And it's very off-putting, annoying, and disappointing. Not the case with Alien Earth. Like the moment an action set piece comes up, I'm like, get it over with, get it over with. Just show blood on the wall and then get back to the people talking.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how good it is. That's
amazing.
It's great.
I have, as we get to the end of the baseball season and we're headed into the playoffs, things are getting more interesting about, which teams are going to make it and all of that sort of thing, if you're into that sort of thing, which I am. And I am pleased to say, for the first season ever, I am making use of the MLB app's multi-view, where I can have one game up in a big box and another game in a small box that I can keep tabs on. In fact, I can have up to 3 other games in the small boxes. And the reason I can do it is because MLB now lets you authenticate Sportsnet LA so that you can watch my Dodger subscriptions that I pay for through DirecTV Stream in the MLB app. In fact, it adds a whole section to the MLB app, which has like on-demand stuff from Sportsnet LA, which is kind of a nice perk. But the main perk for me is I can have the Cardinals games, which I get through my free T-Mobile MLB at Bat subscription, and the Dodger game, which my wife wants to watch. And we can have them both up at the same time. It is not solving the problem, as we will find out in our emails shortly, of having access to everything, but it points the way. It points to the sanity of like, yes, if I'm paying for a thing, let me watch it in the way I want to watch it. And I was very excited when that started to work. And I've been using it a bunch.
Do you gamble on your favorite teams?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not because I have any problem with it. I'm too lazy.
Well, and the only reason, and what's funny is I felt a little bit weird even asking that question, like it was personal, but in fact, I was telling myself to not ask, but then I realized, nope, there's a cord killer's angle to this because we're starting to see gambling becoming a fundamental game mechanic of sports on media. And I'm wondering how your experience ties in for the gambling experience. For example, as we both know, there are times Justin Robert Young and I like to cosplay as complete degenerate gamblers. And so Justin loves placing bets and having the quad screen on, watching college football happen and having a reason to be doubly angry or what have you. But for us, we both consider that an expense. Like you are spending money. The money is gone. If it comes back, that's a hilarious boomerang that money did. But I suspect that conversation, I think over the next 10 years, America is going to have increasingly serious conversations about gambling.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a separate topic from where I was intending to go, but a perfectly legitimate one. No.
That was a stray thought that
and I only say that because I don't have a lot of anything to say personally about like, well, yes, the closest I come is fantasy baseball, right? So I'll want to have multiple games on because I've got players on multiple teams and my fantasy team is in the playoffs and I want to keep tabs on them. But again, this now lets me do it because the only thing I can't watch in the MLB app that I pay for are Angels games because I can't. Sportsnet LA can be added, but the FanDuel Sports Network that carries the Angels game is not. And so if the Angels are playing anybody, I can't watch it in multi-view. Everybody else I can watch in multi-view. So we're just getting that much closer to it. I know Amos went to a movie theater. Have you heard of movie theaters, Brian?
Well, I know that the theatre is the place for the finest among us to go and have their butts become numb.
What fine arts did you view in the movie theater, Amos?
I saw the movie, The musical, The Hamilton, in movie form in the theater.
You realize, I'm sorry, we can't, Tom and I have, it's a variant of tinnitus. We can only hear humans when they rap. Go on. Oh, apparently we all have that.
Amos was talking, but we couldn't see his lips moving or hear anything because we all have it. So you were in the room where they showed the movie.
Yeah. I wanted to bring this up for 3 things. One, I've now seen it. I've not seen the original cast, but I saw the actual production in a
you had
theater. Yeah, I saw that when they came to Anchorage. Took my daughters, my oldest and my youngest. They accompanied me to the movie. We've seen it on Disney, of course, and my wife came with us to the movie in the theater. And it was still a different experience watching it on the big screen in a theater, where you couldn't just pull out your phone and like have it playing in the background because you're so comfortable with it. Yeah, it gave you something to really focus on.
This is great, and it's a long production to boot.
It is.
So,
It
so
is.
as a matter of fact, it was Hamilton when it came to Disney Plus was part of what turned me against the day and date release, being able to watch at home or in the movie theater. That's when I was introduced to when there's a family there, you get to watch movies in heckle vision. And I was like, I don't like it. I like it where everyone shuts up.
Yeah. It was they even did the little intermission, the 10-minute intermission for everybody to go out and get a potty break.
Nice.
But it was great because it forces you. I don't say forces you. It gives you more of an incentive to really focus on the movie instead of just being present while the movie's playing, like you would in your living room. Really enjoyed it. All four of us did. It was me, my wife, my oldest, and my youngest, and we all four of us really enjoyed it. The only problem we had, which is my final point here, you want to go to see it in a place where it's going to be well populated and have some bounce to
Electricity.
Yeah, because going in small town Alaska with a bunch of people that I don't think had actually seen it before, they get mad when you're singing along with it, which is kind of the whole point of the show.
Also, I just realized I said electricity. I meant like human vibes, although I suppose you also want electrons running through the projection devices.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
Well, maybe not electrons, but at least the photons, right? I mean,
Whatever gets the photons excited so they show up on the screen. Good point.
there you go.
Well, folks, if you've got something that we should be on the lookout for, please share it with us as well, cordkillers@gmail.com. Now, before the show, Amos asked Brian what he wanted to mention at this point in the show, and I wasn't listening, so I'm going to be as surprised as you. Brian, what is it?
Oh, heck yeah, dude. So a lot of you guys know that, of course, all of this secretly financed. It's all a pyramid scheme, Tom. What we do is we show up with excellent commentary. We do a lot of work. We watch the news. We provide videos, live streams, shorts, all of that. Eventually, I sell you lockpicks, or at least that's what I used to do over at scamstuff.com. That's gear for the modern rogue. Now, I increasingly have discovered a new trove of curated content that I get to bring. These are products that I want you guys to buy at home. You know, Christmas is coming up, so every single week I'm adding new stuff to the store. Tom, will you describe in one animated GIF what this item is that I am about to show? There we go, right there. This is an effect called Nailed. Describe what you're seeing to everyone at home.
Someone has nailed themselves in the forehead with what looks like a coin.
Yeah, basically you stick a quarter to your forehead and it sticks, but then when you pull it off, you reveal that it, quote unquote, stuck there because you put a freaking nail into your head. And it really is as smooth and as easy and as gorgeous and as clean as it looks right there. That's the latest item that I just added at scamstuff.com. It's gear for the modern rogue. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. All right, let's scan the horizon.
Send a scanning crew aboard.
Scanning the horizon!
A company called Aurzen, A-U-R-Z-E-N, has launched the first projector television running Roku OS called the D1R Cube. It's cheap, $170, and it's cheap. Can only do an image up to 150 inches. Can take 4K input, but only outputs 1080p. Does have things like automatic focus and keystone adjustments. Comes with a pair of 5-watt speakers, not huge, but comes with speakers. So for $170, it's not bad, but thus it begins that the one area where Google can dominate TV operating systems, projectors, is now being threatened by Roku.
Now, remind me specifically, why did Google dominate? Just because Roku wasn't touching projectors? Is that what was going on?
Roku's OS was not on any projectors until now. So Google filled the gap because there wasn't anyone else doing it, unless the manufacturer was making it themselves, which happened in a couple cases.
So 25 years ago, my parents retired and they had me design their home theater setup. And that was when I first bumped into, we got one of the very first widescreen HD, whatever, it's like roughly 1080, no, not even 1080p. I think it was 1024 widescreen, whatever that is. But that was when we learned that those bulbs are expensive and they run out, and projectors were not meant to be daily use televisions. That's when we learned about light bleed and all of that stuff. So it's fascinating. It makes sense that Roku interested in being the living room dominant TV experience would not want to touch projectors. And I wonder what that says about the projector market or the way people use them.
I would like to counter a couple things. First of all, projectors have changed quite a bit since then.
Well, that's also part of what I wanted to ask you.
Bulb changes are not an issue anymore. And I think Roku, I don't know why Roku wasn't available, whether it was Roku's choice or the projector manufacturers that just didn't want to deal with Roku. I'm not sure.
Well, part of it is I have perceived that Roku was never playing for the high quality precision presentation market. They were always playing for the living rooms. And
projectors are just a commodity now. They're not
exactly
high quality precision. So maybe it's the meeting of those two trends, right? Coming down from where it was when you were dealing with them and Roku kind of rising up. Yeah. India's streaming audience has reached 601.2 million users. That's 40% of the country's population now streaming television, according to Ormax Media. 87% of the growth is in connected TVs. In India, if you know anything about the market, you'd expect it to be mostly on mobile, which it still is. But connected TV viewership is huge now, with 129.2 million active users watching TV in India on a TV.
Tom, that's 3 Americas. I think American streaming is around 200 million people. That's India, pretty big market.
It's huge. It's a very huge market. And I think what struck me about this was even in India, where mobile is preferred, both economically and just because, space and all of that, people still wanting to watch this on a television when they can. So that's interesting to me. Getting back to Warner Brothers Discovery, CEO David Zaslav was talking about HBO Max at a Goldman Sachs conference and said, the fact that this is quality, and that's true across our company, motion picture, TV production, and streaming quality, we all think that gives us a chance to raise price. We think we're way underpriced. David Zaslav telling the investors, of course, but it's going to get reported everywhere. We think HBO Max should be more expensive. Not a popular thing for people to hear, but probably a good thing for investors to hear. He also said, we haven't been pushing on the password sharing and the economics yet. People are really starting to love HBO Max. That's the key. We want them to fall in love with our content, with our series, with the differential offering outside of the US. It's all tricky with the password sharing. We're going to begin to push on that.
Tom.
But he's soft pedal in the password sharing crackdown.
There used to be an almost main character on this program 15 years ago that we didn't like to talk about, but were forced to talk about from time to time. And seeing this chat, seeing what I'm seeing on YouTube, feel like we're about to see, returning to the arena of conversation, the topic of piracy. Pirate sites had gone away, but boy, oh boy, is it expensive. I said gone away. Of course, they never went away. But my point is, in terms of popularity, these services are getting expensive, and the crackdown on the passwords. Turns out markets respond to incentives, and I feel like I fear for the shareholders that they're going to feel the sting.
I think there's a lot more light than heat to that conversation. I think it is a truism to say that a few loud voices dominate all internet conversation, and you will get a lot of agreement, a lot of hearty agreement when you say, these things are too expensive, I'm going to pirate. You're not really seeing it happen.
Yeah,
because a lot of people forgot how difficult that is. How tricky and fiddly that is.
Well, specifically,
and technology companies have gotten better at putting impediments in the way of it. So I don't know that it's going to increase piracy that much. Maybe a little. I think more people are just going to suck it up and pay because they realize, well, it's still cheaper than cable was.
I don't know. The friction, I'm thinking specifically of a video that I watched the first 2 minutes of and then thought, oh, I should talk about this with Tom. Apparently some front-end designs are quite, we don't love this. We're just accurately reporting the facts. In some markets, the best presentation quality is piracy, and that is unfortunate, and we're not for it. But I don't know. The more of this crackdown.
But that's always been true.
Yes, but also the front end designs are more elegant now in this latest wave.
Popcorn was a great front end design. It was the best front end design that was going when it was huge.
Yeah. And indeed, incentives are reshuffling again. And I believe humans will go where the incentives
I'm going to disagree with you. I think it's overhyped. I think everybody's saying that.
Ooh, this is great. Tom, am I hearing this right? Do we disagree on a thing? Should people
we
chime in
differ.
at cordkillers@gmail.com?
Yes, they should. Tell Tom why he's so wrong. And piracy is going to be huge. And these streaming companies are going to fail. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Now we go to the in memoriam part because we just revived the piracy story. But we are laying to rest the how are the streaming companies doing at awards story.
Oh my
because
gosh.
What would have led the show 5 years ago is an afterthought. Here's the scorecard from the Emmy Awards, which were awarded on Sunday evening. Apple TV Plus, The Studio, took home 13 trophies, the most for any single program. HBO Max's The Penguin was the second most Emmys with 9. In third place was Netflix's Adolescence, Apple's Severance, and the SNL 50 anniversary special from NBC/Peacock with 8 awards each. Overall, platform-wise, Netflix tied HBO Max as the most successful Emmy winner of the year. Penguin was obviously the biggest boost for HBO Max, but it also got a bunch of awards for The Pit, 3 apiece from Hacks and the documentary Pee-wee himself. And Netflix's winningest titles were, of course, Adolescence, but then followed by Arcane and Love, Death, and Robots with 5 wins each. Apple TV Plus came after that with 22 wins from The Studio and Severance.
So out of all of these, there, mathematically speaking, Tom, has to be one that made the biggest moves in terms of your interest and attention. For me, it would definitely be Adolescence. That one had been simmering in the periphery of my vision, but that many awards makes me really feel like I should go in now while it's still cold, or while I'm still unaware of everything that's on the inside of that. What about for you?
Probably the Adolescence as well, but second most would be The Pit, which I keep hearing amazing things about, and so it getting a lot of attention. I've watched all the others, Hacks and Severance and all of that. The 77th Emmy Awards also rose in viewership. Now that CBS has it instead of ABC, it's up 8% from last year's audience. And speaking of Hacks, Hannah Einbinder was doing a red carpet interview before the Emmys and told E! News that going into filming for season 5, quote, knowing it's the last season is really bittersweet. The creators are the arbiters of that being true ultimately, but I think the original plan was that they saw a 5-season arc in their initial pitch for the show. So obviously there have been tons of shows that maybe go away, come back. I don't really know. So on the red carpet, I told that poorly. On the red carpet, Einbender said, going in knowing it was the last season, it was bittersweet. Then in another press conference later, she was like, hey, I don't really know. The original plan was that, but maybe it won't be. I don't know anyway, because we don't know how it ends. We don't ask. We like to be surprised. Okay, bye. I'm being my character from Hacks right now.
Isn't it crazy how, like, the last bastion of true surprise and randomness is the little cages of other humans' minds where for a brief moment somebody just spoke freely or in the moment, and then clearly what happened was somebody said, did you just announce a thing?
We haven't announced that yet, Hannah. Yeah, Hannah. All right, let's move on to the chatter.
Got mail.
Bill near Athens wrote in and said, howdy. Not just to say hello, but he's talking about
I misread it as well, Tom.
A free ad-supported streaming service called Howdy. Seems to be a service that you can pay to not have ads. Oh, so it's not a free ad-supported service, but it has the same content as one, but you have to pay. Bill says, I keep getting ads to watch China Beach, a show that aired from 1988 to 1991 on Howdy. If someone is looking for those kinds of movies and TV shows, there are already plenty of places to watch them without paying for it. Are there really that many people wishing they could pay to get Pluto, Tubi, or the Roku channel without ads? I suspect that most customers are much more willing to pay for newer releases, such as the originals they find on Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and all the other pluses.
Yeah, there's kind of a strata of like loose change on the pavement out there where it's like your brand is so insignificant as to like there's nothing to degrade by accepting free money if somebody mistakenly is just entering their credit cards willy-nilly into their grandmother's television set. And it feels like this is at that tier.
Well, and I don't know how Howdy got started, but I can imagine a conversation where they're saying, okay, we can get access to all this same stuff that Pluto and Tubi and Zumo have. How do we differentiate ourselves? And someone's saying, what if we charge a really low amount? Howdy is $3 a month and you don't have ads. Where it's like, hey, I want all that stuff. I don't want to pay those huge prices for Netflix, but I don't like ads either. There may be enough of a market there, Bill, where it's not a lot of people, but there are some people who are like, yeah, I hate ads and I don't want to pay more than $3 a month for something, but I do want this stuff.
You know what? And I'll bet there are enough people out there, like, you know, every time we cover a show that I don't have it on a service or if it's a free ad supported thing, I'd rather pay $3 like per episode to watch it ad free. There may be people who are just want to watch that particular thing, but are just allergic to ads.
And then previously we had an email of someone in Connecticut complaining that they lived in a place where their IP address put them in one market, but they wanted to watch the sports from the other market and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And we asked if anybody had a solution, please send it along. Sean didn't have a solution, but he did have some solidarity. Sean lives in New Haven and gets an IP address in Norwich, Connecticut, though sometimes a Massachusetts IP, which gives Sean the opposite of our previous complaint, Boston sports, when he would prefer New York sports, especially for the NFL. Sean said, I don't have a solution, but know that my dad lives 2 towns away, still has cable, and gets the local broadcasts, which tend to show Giants games, New York Giants games, on Fox instead of the national game, like the Boston affiliate does. And the CBS affiliate shows Patriots games, if both the Jets and Patriots are playing. But I get Boston CBS playing the national game whenever the Patriots are not playing. For further context, the CBS affiliate broadcasts out of Hartford and the Fox affiliate broadcasts out of New Haven, and which game that goes out is a decision made by the local affiliate. And that local affiliate's decision does not apply for the over-the-top apps like Fox Sports and Paramount Plus. Though I could use a VPN to watch it as if I'm in New York, I just haven't gone through the trouble of setting up a VPN for my Roku stick and not really interested in watching football on anything else but my TV. So I watch whatever the Boston affiliates decide to broadcast. New Haven is further away from Massachusetts than Hartford, so not sure why I get primarily Boston skewing IP addresses, and Mark is getting New York skewing IP addresses when he wants Boston content.
Tom, we're coming up on the portion of the program where you let people know when and where they can see the show. And it occurred to me that we've not really made a big moment of telling people, seriously, we are astonishingly regular. We are always there at the same time and place every single week. And some folks who are encountering this show might have more fun if they join us at the actual time that we do it live, which is when, Tom?
It is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, like the Metamucil of podcasting. Come watch us, twitch.tv/Night Attack, youtube.com/Modern Rogue, and of course our email address, cordkillers@gmail.com. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Now, you may think Brian stepped away, but in fact, he may be able to turn invisible. I'm not sure exactly how to tell for sure. Science has not yet determined an unassailable proof of whether Brian Brushwood is invisible or not, Amos.
I am going to counter your hypothesis with my own hypothesis.
Okay. I would say you're just adding a hypothesis.
Well, sure. Could be. I mean, being that nothing's been determined yet, I guess.
Yeah. Float it.
I think Brian is a blue card and is out of phase.
Ooh, that is also something that could be possible. We have multiple hypotheses on the table.
See, you thought when he said magician, he was actually doing magic,
Close-up magic or card trick.
No. He's actually a magic card and is currently out of phase. I think that's where that's where my hypothesis is.
He is either invisible, out of phase, or pooping.
Oh, well. Fair. Okay, yeah.
Actually, isn't he usually making coffee? Isn't
I
that
think
what he actually does?
I think he's hitting a quick trick to the Keurig.
Yeah. Which later would mean he could either be out of phase, invisible, or because of the coffee,
Pooping. Yeah.
Ambassador Domo points out, could also be all three.
All three, yeah. Invisible, out of phase, and
thankfully, because he's invisible and out of phase,
right,
we can't see the third one.
But then I guess it wouldn't matter if the poop was then invisible, because then it'd be still out of phase, right? So
yeah,
we wouldn't bother us either way.
You can't smell something that's out of phase.
I don't think so.
I'm guessing.
Oh.
Okay.
Agonizing. Agonizing. It is agonizing to sit here and watch the Keurig very slowly fill a coffee while I have to hear this Metamucil meta commentary.
That's what put it in my head. Okay, I was wondering where that came from. Thank you.
It's killing me.
Softly?
No, harshly.
In phase?
Yeah, it's you can't smell it. It's like a left-handed molecule. It just passes right past your olfactory.
It's like a neutrino.
Senses.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Which was it?
Hey, shouts out. Oh man, it's like clockwork. I finish peeing, and then I walk, and I'm like, maybe the coffee will be done. As
Never
if the
done.
coffee's
Never
going to be
done.
any faster. And
Nope.
it's never done. And then I think to myself, maybe they won't be mocking me. But sure enough, my wireless headphones get within range like clockwork.
Well, I have good news for you, Brian.
regular.
I have good news for you, Brian. As you get older, that it's going to take you longer to pee, and the coffee will be more likely to be done.
That's good.
You need to drink more coffee earlier, so you'll pee longer, so you'll be
So the coffee
timed
will be
with the
ready,
coffee.
Yeah, that seems like I'm degrading the experience just to please the shareholders.
Epicycles upon epicycles.
Okay, we're about to talk about Yellowstone, which is not going to be everybody's jam. So let me put the word out now for anybody on the live stream. We got a new episode of The Monologue about to drop. It's way good. It's a 45-minute interview with Ernie Klein, and the moment that I want you guys to notice is, in fact, I noticed that Brant did this like push in. There's a moment that Ernie gets like real, and you could watch his brain go to a very private place, and then he pulls himself back. And during that time, it's really great. It's a really great moment.
Nice. Okay, I got to watch for the Brant push. That's cool.
Yeah.
Shall we begin the full experience then?
Yes, indeed.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Welcome to the full experience. This is the beginning of a brand new journey. We take these journeys regularly, 4 episodes at a time. The full experience is about sampling just 4 episodes of a television series to see if we can become culturally literate with it. Get a sense of what that show is about. Talk about it knowledgeably with people who've seen the entire run. And we are beginning with the first episode, and then we'll watch the ultimate, the lowest, and the last, hence the full experience. But we're beginning with the first episode of Yellowstone, Daybreak, which first aired June 20th, 2018. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Tom, this one, for anybody who doesn't know, we just finished Bonanza, and this seemed like a 21st century spiritual successor to that kind of vibe that we wanted to check in on. When you started this, when you hit play, how culturally corrupted had you already become? Like just by osmosis?
Sure, not very. I was actually curious about that myself, but almost everything in this was a surprise. I have been left virtually untouched by Yellowstone in the 7 years since this premiered. What about you?
Same. I did know that it had Kevin Costner, and I knew
I knew
it
that
appealed
too.
to, Westernish. I expected big, rich visuals, and I knew it was, I didn't know specifically Montana, but I could
I knew
picture
it
what
was
looked
very
like.
popular with white people. That is what I had read about it.
And
It
I
was
knew
like,
it was probably going to have some kind of like city folk just don't get it,
Yeah.
But I was unprepared for the whiplash I got in the first 10 seconds of this first episode. That was an excellent set of setting expectations and then subverting them. You have a big sky, clear background, and a hand upheld. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a hand in big sky country. Okay. Then you see the head of a horse, and you're like, oh, it's coming in, he's going to touch the horse. And you can hear, they do the thing where it's like the horse clearly is not disturbed, but the sound effects make it sound like it's having a tough time. But then in comes Kevin Costner's head bleeding. You're like, oh, we're doing this bit, the bit where, he calms the wild stallion after breaking. And then up comes the 6-shooter to the neck of the horse. And I'm like, did he get robbed by the horse? What's going on? And then it cuts to wide, showing wreckage, carnage, the bottom quadrant of a horse all ripped open. Clearly, unquestionably, this horse is about to die, and he puts it out of his misery. I thought that was incredibly efficient. There are moments that I like to feel seen and heard as an audience member, and I felt very seen and heard in the pacing of the, like, we know you get this, we know you get this, you might think it'd be like this, instead it's like this. And then I was left immediately with a puzzle that I immediately grasped, I get it, it's advancing city folk, it's about the carnage, the wreckage as industry comes into unspoiled country. But then after that, it just continued to complicate things in interesting ways. I rather liked it.
I thought the visual storytelling at the open was fantastic. I don't think they could have maintained that level of visual storytelling through the hour and a half of this pilot episode. But I appreciated it. I was like, this is amazing visual storytelling. Great way to open this. Really captivated me. I liked that it was horse first, then the hat, then check on the driver of that truck, and then just wait for the cops to show up. So these are the Duttons. I'm like, okay, you've just told me what I need to know about the Duttons. I don't have a lot of other notes. I ended up just watching, partly because it is beautiful. It's beautifully shot. Partly because the story starts to stretch out the longer it goes. It was about 26 minutes before I checked the time. I probably checked the time 3 or 4 more times after that. I also noticed that it's the same pilot plot as Bonanza. Bonanza's pilot plot was the Cartwrights are trying to maintain their huge ranch, and the city folk are trying to get them to sell so they can develop the land. And that, at least we find out there's another part of this story, but at first, that's what's happening to the Duttons. They own a huge amount of this Montana chunk, and gosh darn it, why don't you just give a little bit of it for us to develop?
Yeah, although in this case, we get, I think, a spicier tripolar face-off happening, and I like
we
that
get an
instantly
added part with the reservation and the new chief and all of that, which ends up being the more important part of the story by the end, I think.
Oh my God. I loved the fact that they were brave enough to just straight up cast Chief Acevedo from the Shield.
I had to look up, like, that's not. No, it's not. Okay.
But that's clearly what was in their mind. And in fact, I saw that, you noticed the kind of methed out trailer vibes, and it made me think about how Farmington in the Shield exists in the same physical space, multiple stratas of society. And then in this case, different geography, but you've got the institution of family in terms of kinship, but then separate from that, you have allegiance to the entity of the tribe versus the entity of the corporate entities. So the fact that they all exist simultaneously with mostly aligned interests. Our protagonist, I think Casey is his name. He clearly is on the outs, and it's not entirely made clear what incongruencies and misalignments there are. There was a brief moment that I thought they were going to go full the Shield, and I was a little bit disappointed that Kevin Costner didn't murder someone at the end to really surprise us. But instead, our surprise was the significant bloodletting, the loss of a brother in the very beginning of it, and the indication that this is just the most recent deaths in the face-off.
Well, and Casey commits murder.
That's right.
You can argue about whether it's justifiable or not, but he was told by Grandpa, like, you're not one of us, and that came out. And Casey's not sure what he thinks about it himself.
Yeah, I you know what? This is the first time I was watching the full experience that I had kind of during one of the boring parts when I was checked out. I was like, oh, well, at least I'll get to find out. And I was like, no, I won't. No, I won't. We're just doing the full experience. I'm not buckling in for the full ride. I'm merely a tourist. I'm a transplant, as they put it. I'm just taking a peek, and it seems like that first episode, that pilot episode, does a fine job of setting up the precarious balance between multi-layered. It's very effective storytelling that I can tell you almost every character I saw, I could give you 2 to 3 dimensions of their alignment, and despite their family alignment, where they are culturally, racially, corporation-wise, all of that stuff.
Yeah, there is a lot of discussion about the story online. You'll find a lot of people debating the quality of the story and whether this should have had more than a couple of white people writing it, which is the allegation. But if you set aside the quality of the message of the story, I felt like cinematically it's well told. I felt like acting wise it's pretty solid. I like that they made it Succession, but with competent children instead of the comedically bad children. They're not perfect, right? They've got flaws.
They do track pretty closely, though.
Yep. And so, I thought if you're not talking about the message of the story, I thought it was executed well, but too long. And I only felt that as it went along. Like I was really brought in very well at the beginning, and I was tight with it, like I said, for the first half hour. And then it started to have a little too much Big Sky country in it to always hold my interest. But honestly, I never felt bored. I never was like, when is this going to end?
I got bored whenever, and forgive me if this sounds sexist, I don't mean for it to. I just don't think they did a lot with those moments. Twice they're just extended scenes of women cooking, and I'm like, what is happening in this scene? And
those were discussions. Those weren't just women cooking.
Well, yes, but normally
trying to, I'm not sure how successful they were, but they were trying to give you a window. Those were the scenes that reminded me of my wife's family. Even though she's not native, I was like, oh yes, this is all the generations communicating with each other.
Yes, and I felt like they were more expository dumps, and that probably I mean, I don't know. Look, all I could do is track my interest. Those were the times that I checked that I noticed the time.
Okay. I know Amos made a point of setting aside most of his day to watch this episode.
It was long.
So Amos, how'd you feel about the time you invested in Daybreak?
I'm very torn about this episode. I did not want to like it. I did not want to like the series. I didn't want to like the story. I wanted to be able to look my wife in the eye and say, no, the show you love so much is dumb. 90 minutes was a long time for this first episode, but I was never bored. And the only time I ever checked the clock was to make sure that I wasn't going to be late for this show.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
I know how they stretched it a little bit. They added a little bit more than they needed to, but I never felt that was unnecessary. I was always thankful for those little pauses in the action to give me a little time to digest what was going on, because this was very dense. You know, they didn't just give you one storyline to start following. They kind of gave, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen another episode, but it felt like they're giving me all the storylines to follow right now with just this little sprinkling of each one. And I needed that extra little time to make sure I was settled with one part of it before we moved on to the next part.
Yeah, to comprehend everything.
Yeah, and going into this, all I'd known what it was about Rip and Beth, you know, all the meme videos, stuff like that. So I didn't know anything about any of the other stuff, and I was intrigued. I enjoyed it. I liked the all the dichotomies, with Casey having, you know, the native wife but the white family, and being torn between those two worlds, even though he just doesn't want to be part of either one. He just kind of wants to be left alone to be with his family. In the beginning, the talk of, well, that's what a cattleman would say, but or that's what a rancher would say, but a cattleman would see it this way as a profit margin.
Yeah.
You know, and
I love that because to me, that's what really drew the line of difference with Succession, right? It wasn't, boy, you need to grow up. It was like, that's a perfectly legitimate viewpoint, but it's not the one you need if you want to do what I do.
Right. But all those little balances like that, like you got to see Beth just come in and be like, no, you know, this, I'm in charge here. You're dealing with me, and throw the brashness out there, and then go to the family. And at the family, she's not that brash. She's still strong, but she's not as coarse, and she softens a little bit. And
they did do a little bit. Tell me, maybe it was calibrated just right for your tastes. I do like self-awareness among my characters, where people are very aware of, like, I'm currently playing the whatever, I'm making a foolish decision, I'm doing whatever. When she definitely is like next level, like, I'm refusing the call. What about you? Like that, it was just a little bit more.
I thought it was a little much when the bartender came over with a phone and said, call for you. And she said, I refuse.
Is that just me? Was I too in my head about it?
I actually like that. And being as far as we know, she's the only girl in the family, it gives her a natural role to fall into. Like she's not into, you know, she wants to be, you know, have all the money and do all the things and be the businesswoman and you know, enjoy the finer things in life, while her brothers are all out there, you know, wrestling around with horses and cattle and stuff. So it kind of fit that mold for me. But I did like that little contrarian, like, you know, you're gonna come out with this? She's like, I hate these things. No, like, I don't mess with horses.
What did she say? Perseverance is earned, or I forget what it was. Penance is earned. Something is found. It was good writing, but it was just so on the nose that it broke me out of the story, because I couldn't believe that somebody was that good.
The writing was too good for a person to say.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I get what you mean.
Human
Yeah.
is that good.
Yeah.
Also, did you guys ever find the camera? Where was that camera?
You had to look hard to find it. In fact, you couldn't find it at first, right?
Yeah, I couldn't, but now you could see, because in the reflection you see the cowboy, but what they did was they lined up the cameraman. You could see him ever so slightly
just
shooting
a little
over.
bit.
But boy, that was catnip when he turned right to the camera and gave a full look right down the barrel, and all you saw, give or take, was
reflection.
Was the cowboy. It was good.
Yeah.
But also the attention to detail in some of these things like that right there, where, you know, that was only on screen for a second and a half, but they made sure that the camera wasn't just obvious right there. A lot of little things like that were in this. The production value was really, really good.
Yeah, there were some incredible telephoto long shots. If you ever see, they caught the right morning mist and the right unspoiled atmosphere out there. I mean, clearly they're out in big sky country when they shoot all of this. And there are times where there's just nested layers of hills super, super far. It looked great.
Yeah. I haven't been to Montana since the 90s, so my experience of it is useless in interpreting this. So maybe Bozeman is exactly as the way they're displaying it here. It's quite possible. But it felt more like they were talking about Wyoming, you know, or what is it? The place in Idaho where everybody goes to.
There was Boise or
No, not Boise. The
Coeur d'Alene.
No. It's even smaller than that, and it's a place where the rich go to have their little conference and talk about being rich because Jackson Hole has become too middle class. It feels like this is a metaphor for that of like these tiny places in the empty quarter of the United States where the rich gather.
I was thinking, Tom, that like during this episode, I had to keep reminding myself that they were in Montana and not in Wyoming. And I don't know if that's because it looks like what I've seen of Wyoming and not what I've seen of Montana, or
Sun Valley, Idaho.
Or if my internal bias is just Wyoming is ranch country and Montana is more forested and mountainy. I don't know. I've only been through each once, so.
Yeah, and I've never been to Bozeman. I've only been to Missoula and up and down the road.
We stayed one night in Billings on our way to Canada, on our way to Alaska. So
Pete says he thinks it was filmed in Utah anyway. So they're
not
all
Wyoming,
roughly the same climate. So
well, I'll tell you this much: the downtown shot that they had, where they're at the Churn, an ice cream shop, they have in the B-roll a little city downtown theater.
Yeah.
That I had to stop and go look up because I had played at one of those kind of theaters in Montana, and they had put up in those same letters, I had been voted in college campuses Variety Entertainer of the Year. And so I took a picture of myself in front of that, and I went and had to dig up that theater photo to see if it was that actual theater, but it was not. But it was authentic enough.
Yeah. And honestly, what's the town with the film fest? Sundance, Utah? Like that's the same story, right? Which is like all the transplants come and get their condos and live half the year there and all of that. So Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, it's telling that story. And the Duttons are not that story. It's the developers that are that. Then you've got the Duttons and then you have the natives.
How did you like the face-off? I rather dug the foreshadowing of the 2-in-1 night, and then they let you hang for a little bit to realize, oh my God, he's both going to make a move against the developers and the tribe at the same time. And the tribe kind of went the way I would believe it. You have enough chaos with the cattle, and essentially, like any bar fight, it's two people puffing their chest, and then they get over the line, and then there's a scrape.
Yeah. I felt it was more in service of telling the story to have them do both in one night. Because it's like, well, you don't want to save it for the next episode. It's better to just put it all out at once.
Also, it's like you only have budget for one or the other. You have some CGI explosions versus...
What is that? But yeah, overall, it was a well-told story.
I like the fact that they leaned into it a little bit, but they didn't really explain the branding, the Yellowstone branding on people. Like they kind of put it out there. Showing
versus telling, another example of that.
Yeah.
Well, and that was part of what set me off on like, what if Kevin Costner's character was much darker than we thought? Like, what if he really is running a gang? I mean, which I assume is still on the table. It's not entirely clear. I mean, branding is.
When I was doing a live stream on Monday, I was telling people I'm about to watch Yellowstone, and one of the refrains from people was, I didn't like it. I stopped watching it because it was too many unlikable people. So that was the one thing I was prepared for, is like, okay, no heroes. We're not going to have anybody that's above reproach. And Casey's probably the closest you get. And then by the end of that episode, he is not above reproach. So yeah.
I liked it. I'm excited to see where we go next with this and how it ends up. This might be one of those shows that I end up having to go back and watch the whole thing.
Speaking of which, Tom, where are we going next?
We are jumping all the way to season 4, episode 1. So I'm guessing there was a cliffhanger episode at the end of season 3. We'll probably get a previously on that'll catch us up somewhat, and then we are going to watch Half the Money, which first aired November 7th, 2021. So we're jumping 3 years ahead, 3 seasons ahead from season 1 to season 4, episode 1. And then just to lay out the rest of the road, we jump to season 5, episode 9 for the lowest ranked episode, Desire Is All You Need, which is just 5 episodes away from the very end, which is season 5, episode 14, Life is a Promise, which will be the last episode.
Cool.
I did like the fact that the highest rated episode was immediately after the second highest rated episode. They were almost tied, and we're going to catch the second half of that.
Yeah.
Two highest rated.
That happens a lot when you've got a cliffhanger 2-parter like that.
Yeah.
We're
we're almost going to get like a big chunk of the best right there, because we're going to see the outcome of that setup.
Second half of that. Yeah, that's happened at least once before when we've been doing this. All right, folks, if you get the patreon.com/cordkillers, you get the full experience before everybody else. And you get our after talk where we discuss which stuff we're going to watch and why, and you get to weigh in on that. So become a patron, patreon.com/cordkillers, and get ready to watch season 4, episode 1, Half the Money, the ultimate episode, the highest rated episode as far as IMDb ratings go. And that's what we'll be watching next time on The Full Experience. Talk to you then.
All right.
So long, everybody.
We love you guys.
We'll see you soon. Take care.
We'll be back shortly with Great Nights.